I once possessed the strongest of the 12 Zodiac Beast souls, the Dragon Martial Soul. But Liu Ruyan, wielder of the Rat Martial Soul, betrayed me. She stole my Dragon Soul skill, which could resurrect me 3 times. Then she killed me 4 times in cold blood. 100 years ago, heaven and earth underwent a great transformation. Spiritual energy flooded back into the world. Humanity awakened beast souls and gained extraordinary power. The strongest of all were the 12 Zodiac Beast souls. Liu Ruyan coveted the power of the strongest Zodiac Beast soul. She struck while I was at my weakest in the middle of a breakthrough. She murdered me without mercy. Then she used the rat's plundering ability to steal my Dragon Soul skill. At this moment I was killed 4 times and fell into the blood and fire. I just feel like my consciousness is getting blurry. Then the rumors that I had heard came to mind. If the two-born dragon is infected by evil thoughts, then dragon will turn into a disaster dragon. Has the 4th chance of resurrection? I hate it so much. I would like to transform into a dragon and bring disaster to this world. I want to make Liu Ruyan's life worse than death. This is when my body changed. Use the black dragon's feet to suddenly hit me on the head. Black liquid suddenly appeared and enveloped my whole body, repairing the physical injuries. The satisfaction around me is eating away at my body. Instantly swallowed by black viscous liquid, become the nourishment for me to gain new life. The moving black liquid wraps me into a can. The body that was originally penetrated is gradually recovering. The crushed heart was repaired as well as ever. But it's a beating black heart. After a while, the ceremony was completely completed. The black canyu suddenly exploded. Black flames burning around. Instantly burn all the aliens who are close to me. At this moment, my appearance has undergone earth-shaking changes. The blonde hair turned into jet black. The evil aura circulated in the hair. 2 black dragon legs spoke out from the top of the head. This is the characteristic of reaching the soul-receiving mirror. When the soul-receiving mirror is reached, the characteristics of the awakened soul will appear. The most important thing is that when you reach the soul-receiving mirror, you can summon the soul-receiving mirror to fight, which will achieve a huge leap in strength. And the dragon pattern that originally exuded a sacred aura on the plum star also faded away at this moment. Gradually it turned into a contending black, and then my thoughts moved. The black dragon pattern on the plum star flashed, and the evil dragon, the representative of disaster, came out. As my cold voice fell, the soul disappeared in an instant, turning into a 5-clawed black dragon with a black spirit. Master the Black Dragon milked his milky voice with a very aggressive tone. He jumped up and landed on the black dragon's head. Let's go. Go to kill people. The evil black dragon will rise into the sky. All the foreign races passing by will bow down and be defeated. The suppression from their bloodline makes them breathless. At this moment, I have my hands folded in front of my chest. The trial on the extraterritorial battlefield is about to end. At the end of the extraterritorial battlefield, there is a bronze-colored ancient gate. That is the place that can quickly lead to Blue Star. My goal is the bronze-colored ancient gate. As long as it is blocked, Liu Ruyan will not be able to escape. Liu Ruyan killed himself 4 times to seize the dragon soul. Then I will kill the other party 4 times and make his life worse than death to avenge this. The little junior brother Tian Tian swallowed them for me. My eyes are frozen. His eyes scanned all the aliens on the ground below. If you encounter one, kill him. Moreover, the alien essence in the alien body can also enhance the strength. After receiving the order, the black dragon opened its bloody mouth. A huge black vortex instantly formed around the aliens who were originally bodhisattvas. The body moved towards the black vortex uncontrollably. In a short time, all the surrounding alien races will be swallowed up by the black dragon and taken away. I stood on the head of the black dragon and watched this scene. Junior brother Tuntian is very powerful after testing, able to increase strength quickly and without any side effects. It is similar to the ability of the pig in the Chinese zodiac to swallow and grow, but my own skills seem to be more abnormal. This makes me more confident in dealing with Liu Ruyan. At this moment, kill yourself and seize the dragon soul. The beautiful woman, codenamed Purple, is waiting on a mountain peak for the portal to open. 3 years I planned for 3 years and finally captured the dragon soul. From now on, my purple soul will be the strongest soul among the 12 zodiac animals. Liu Ruyan's heart was filled with joy. It was just the soul in the dragon and the underworld. The entire mountain peak seemed to be moving. The soul masters all looked at the place where Long Ming came from in confusion. How could there be Long Ming's voice in this place? This breath was Liu Ruyan activated the skill super perception the moment Long Ming started to meditate. This is a skill captured from a bat clan. The perception ability is very powerful. This is also the reason why he can survive on the battlefield outside the prison without any damage. At this time, Liu Ruyan was breathing heavily. This evil aura is him. I have obviously killed him. Why is he still alive, and he is even stronger? The other party is definitely here to kill me, and he also successfully advanced to become the Beast Soul Path. Has the ability to summon Beast Souls to fight. I'm afraid all the Beast Soul Masters present combined won't be a match. Liu Ruyan anxiously looked at the portal that was opening frequently. As long as the door is fully open, he will be able to leave the battlefield outside prison and return to the first military region. He will be completely safe once he returns to the first military district. In the distance, the 7 black Longmo has locked onto Liu Ruyan on the mountain. Liu Ruyan, you can't run away. I won't make sense if I don't kill you. I ignored the Beast Soul Master below, who was rushing towards the portal. There is only one target in his eyes, and that is Liu Ruyan. I want him to know the price of betrayal, at this time as the 12-life filial piety beast. Soul of the Human Beast Soul Federation. Ying Huzhao also rushed to the portal. Looking at the distance, the black figures rushing towards them are all like tigers. That's Dragon. How did he become like this? Yinghu stared at the figure in the sky in disbelief. Rat, aren't you with Dragon? How could Dragon become like this? Yinghu looked at the nervous rat and asked Liu Ruyan pitifully, I don't know. Dragon and I separated a month ago. I don't know why Dragon became like this. It is said that the sacred dragon will become mentally abnormal after turning into an evil dragon. If Dragon does something unbelievable, I hope you will just wait and see. The strong man Yinghu laughed and asked what kind of extreme things Dragon could do. Even if he transforms into a dragon, he is still the cheerful dragon. Said that the dragon came to the end in the blink of an eye. A certain light locked onto Liu Ruyan below. When I saw Liu Ruyan, I would think of him when he broke through. Once you delete everything on your chest, you will kill yourself and resurrect yourself. Until all the resurrection opportunities of the Holy Dragon Soul have been exhausted, and Liu Ruyan is completely killed, I will be deeply involved with Liu Ruyan. The shit-killing dragon smoke separated from the black dragon's mouth and headed towards Liu Ruyan to kill Dragon. There was indeed something abnormal about the speed of the spear rabbit. Dragon really wanted to kill Ziyu. The spear rabbit beast soul is the fastest among the 12 zodiac beast souls. In an instant, it caught the rat and rescued it from the smoke of the shit-destroying dragon. The shit-killing dragon smoke did not hurt anyone under my control. The ultimate target is nothing more than Liu Ruyan. It flew organically in the sky and swore angrily to me. Dragon, are you crazy? You did something to your own people. How did you become like this? I glanced at everyone. Get out of here. My goal is Liu Ruyan, not you. Or Dai Chimunk and I are in pain with our murderous aura dragon. We won't let you do anything wrong. Zigen is one of us. Why do you want to kill him? Isn't he your girlfriend? The Firefly Lake party asked in confusion in front of Zishi. Ha ha ha. I smiled so hard. Girlfriend. It was no longer the case when he killed me and took my sacred dragon soul. You should know the ability of Purple Soul Sect to hunt and capture. He actually killed me for my sacred dragon soul. If I hadn't turned into a dragon, I'd probably be dead. This statement also shocked everyone. They knew that the Purple Soul had the ability to hunt and plunder, but they could not imagine how terrifying the Purple Soul would be if he applied this power to them. I don't have it. I don't have it. Dragon, you must have been stimulated to become like this. Have you forgotten? We separated a month ago. Liu Ruyan's teary-eyed mother-in-law made a face like, I've seen you, looking at you who is mentally abnormal. In the end, behind the eagle fox and fierce rabbit, he organically chose to believe in the purple Janus. Dragon must have some misunderstanding. Calm down and calm down. Behind the scenes. Ha 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 ha. Calm down. How do you want me to calm down? Kill you 4 times and fall into the abyss. Can you calm down? I scolded. Then the black dragon under his feet fell in front of everyone. I took out your deep throat. Just calm down while you die. When I die. The cold blood on my body became thicker. Since dragon can't calm down, then let us see. The power of the strongest longevity soul dragon. After winning, the big crane will attack me all his life. However, the black dragon just raised his hand and refused to move. Then he pressed Yinhu hard to the ground and couldn't move. Even the skills cannot be used. Behind me, I was also knocked unconscious by your blow. Only Organic and Spear Rabbit were left. They knew that they were not opponents and took the initiative to move out of the way. Liu Ruyan, when you killed me to seize the dragon soul, you should have been able to think of today's ending. I didn't hesitate to activate the world-destroying dragon smoke. Black spitting lizards sprayed out from the dragon's mouth and burned Liu Ruyan. Liu Ruyan's remaining Zhangzhang's voices came and went, without any resentment, and finally turned into ashes. We all looked at this scene in horror and didn't dare to happen. At this moment, the portal opened. Everyone rushed towards the portal like crazy. Dragon went crazy. Dragon killed rat. As the leader of his life came to mind, the body of the rat that turned to ashes suddenly recovered. As soon as the dragon's soul rose into the sky, it disappeared. One of the 3 chances of resurrection was used up. The fierce rabbit saved me. Just when you launched your next attack, the fierce rabbit hugged the resurrected rat at great speed and passed through the portal in an instant. Damn it, I gritted my teeth. Then I stepped on the giant dragon and passed through the portal at the same time. The exit of the portal is the first military district. It may be difficult to kill the rat, but as long as I am fast enough, it is not impossible. On the other side, in the huge square of the first military district of the Blue Star Human Beast Soul Federation, the portal about 100 miles high is already filled with people. Among them, the most eye-catching ones are Du Hao, commander of the entire first military region, and Wang Hao, deputy commander. Commander Du Hao and the end of the field trial. I'm afraid Dragon has broken through to the point where the beast soul has entered. Your granddaughter is so blessed. Wang Hao, wearing military uniform and carrying a message, said with a smile. Only she knows about the entire military region. Liu Ruyan, the owner of the rat beast soul, is the granddaughter of Commander Du Hao. The beast soul is also a powerful existence, second only to Dragon. The corner of Du Hao's mouth slightly twitched, and he felt secretly in his heart. That little girl, Liu Ruyan, should have finished it. Kill Dragon and seize the sacred dragon soul. I can't imagine how great the second beast spirit rat will be when he has 3 resurrection opportunities of Dragon's sacred dragon soul. Dragon went crazy. He actually killed rat. The portal opened and the crowd went crazy. Everyone looked horrified as if they had experienced something terrible. Wang Hao jumped up with a slightly jealous eyebrow. He stopped a beast soul master and asked, Deputy Commander Dragon, he's crazy. He killed rat and looked at the people in front of him. Wang Hao glanced at Du Hao behind him. Du Hao, on the other hand, had an expressionless expression and a serious look on his face. He asked, Is that little girl Liu Yan failed and died in Dragon's hands? If my granddaughter dies? Dragon, I want you to be buried with me. Grandpa, save me. Grandpa, save me. The fierce rabbit rushed out of the portal with the purple mouse in his arms. The moment the two of them walked out of the portal, the black dragon must have reached out and opened its bloody mouth. Disadvantaged Long Yan Tuntun's appearance, attacked and killed the two fierce rabbits and purple rats. Under the watchful eyes of all the military leaders, the purple rat was burned to ashes. And under my control, Meng Tu was only seriously injured and passed out. The black dragon completely walked out of the portal. Everyone looked at the black dragon flying in the air in shock. At this moment, the purple rat that was burned to ashes recovered instantly. A dragon soul soared into the sky. He glanced at the black giant flying in the sky with fear. Attack and save me, damn it, dragon. How dare you kill my granddaughter in public? Damn it, Hercules. As Du Hao roared the runes of the king, Kong Garden flickered, and a golden giant park dozens of meters high suddenly appeared in the square. Everyone saw the army commander Du Hao release the soul. The other military bosses also released the soul one after another. Hercules guarded the purple rat behind him. Du Hao knew standing above the head of Dolly King Kong Park is me in the sky. At this moment he noticed that I had changed a lot. The whole body exudes an evil aura. The sacred dragon seems to be wrapped in evil. He thought of the legend of the evil dragon. A grain in the sky is in the dragon's hand. I feel great pressure. Everyone in the military prison here has the lowest soul sword. And Army Commander Du Hao is even more powerful with the ferocious beast sword. I even heard even more shocking news. Du Hao is actually Liu Ruyan's grandfather. Commander Du Hao, Liu Ruyan is your granddaughter. Yes, Du Hao replied. He wants to kill me, do you know I know, and it benefits me. When I heard this, I understood immediately. It turns out that killing himself to seize the sacred dragon's soul also had Du Hao's intention. Right here belongs to a huge white snow leopard, stood between the two of them. Deputy Commander Wang Hao stood on Snow Leopard's head. I can't bear to look at the sky. After the conversation just now, he already knows the cause and effect. Understand what Commander Du Hao did. When all the military leaders heard the alarm news, they were in a state of uncertainty. Ziyu takes dragon's skills. So can we say. Rat can definitely kill them and seize their skills. Rat has never killed his companions in the past, but Liu Ruyan, the owner of the rat soul this time, set a precedent. Even the person he killed was Dragon, one of the 12 Zodiac souls. Dragon, I know you must have suffered great grievances. Trust me, okay? The mistake made by Commander Du Hao, the mistake made by Ziyu. The Human Soul Federation will give you a fair. Deputy Commander Wang Hao is willing to ask. This sentence completely touched my heart. I gradually let down my guard. Then at this moment, the powerful King Kong moved. Dragon, you have fallen into darkness, turned into a dragon, and become a heretic. Go to hell. The mighty Vajra Chang and the Black Dragon also have to withdraw with one palm. Genpai moved in all directions, and Chen Tong suddenly stirred up the sky. The attack hit the Black Dragon and me. Suddenly I just felt that Musashi was wrongly damaged. The Black Dragon was also brutally covered in a mouthful of dragon blood, which spurted out. My eyes are red. Du Hao, you deserve to die. Du Hao is smiling all over his face. Then he glanced at his granddaughter Liu Ruyan behind him. Granddaughter, Grandpa will avenge you. This dragon must die, otherwise our entire first military region will never see the sun. Seeing this scene, I laughed at myself. This is the justice of the Human Soul Federation. I understand. Du Hao, Liu Ruyan, you guys are waiting. If one day I achieve the realm of the mythical beast, I will make you pay with blood. Tell me. The black dragon soared into the sky and flew into the distance. Du Hao grew strong and roared for the rest of his life. The boy took his life. Then a shock wave passed by the black dragon. If this blow hit the black dragon, then I will completely lose the ability to move and let the other party kill me. Then I will spurt out a mouthful of blood. I glanced at Commander Du Hao, who had a deep sense of pursuit with a serious face. Xiao Hui speeded up. As long as we enter the territory of the Human Republic Federation, I believe that the Human Republic Federation will accept us. No one will refuse the surrender of the owner of the strongest evil dragon soul. Since 100 years ago, human society has been divided into two camps on one side of the world. The Earth is the Republic Federation, and the other is the Soul Federation, which respects strength. The location of the first military region is the border of the Human Republic. Dragon, give up the struggle. You can't escape. Go to hell. Only in this way can I completely save my granddaughter. Du Ao roared that it would be fine if the plan was not exposed. Since he is exposed, he must kill the other party. Otherwise, the Beast Soul Federation will be blamed. As long as the opponent dies, the Rat Beast Soul will be the most powerful existence. For the development of the Beast Soul Federation, we will definitely let them go. Who would care about a dead person? Hercules is just right. The actor suddenly opens his mouth wide and looks into the distance. My body went limp and I was almost greedy. I touched my ears and was covered in blood. For a moment it seemed that the world had become half radical. Xiao Hui was speeding up. No matter how hard he fought, he had to fly to the territory of the Human Republic. Only in this way can we survive. At this time there was a beautiful woman sitting in the elegant room. The woman turned on the projector and said lightly, "What's disturbing my sleep?" A man in military uniform attacks on the other side of projection 1. In the same way, Dragon of the first military district of the Beast Soul Federation was assassinated, is now being chased by Du Hao, the commander of the first military region. And the direction Dragon is heading now is our Republican Federation. Should we come to the rescue? Ziyu smiled when he heard this and told us what the reason was. Let's see if Dragon is worthy of our rescue. Then the man told me what he had experienced before. To be honest, even he couldn't believe it. The owner of the sub-attributed Beast Soul actually killed Dragon and even captured the opponent's skill, the sacred Dragon Soul. Once the owner of the Beast Soul takes action against the people around him, everyone will be in danger, little evil dragon. Ziyu Yang said lazily, "You don't need to worry about this matter. I will take action personally. I want to make this little evil dragon completely surrender to our republic. Compared to the Federation of Beast Souls, our Republic Federation is much more humane." Ziyu's beautiful face is fully revealed. Does the leader really not need our help to save him? Ziyu showed his hands and didn't care. Anyway, I just want to see for myself whether this little guy who turned into an evil dragon has joined our Republic Federation. I don't want this little evil dragon to endanger our republic. Of course he knows the legend. He doesn't know what kind of balance the other party has. If the character is very bad, he would rather kill this evil dragon directly. I don't want this evil dragon to surround the world either. I understand the same reason. The man wearing a military uniform bow mirror. Then turned off the projection. No activity for a long time. I just want to take a walk today. Little devil, come out and play. Immediately after Jizi Yumei's heart. The magic beast pattern shines brightly. Next time the whole city. Suddenly, lightning and thunder covered the sky and sheltered from the rain. And in front of her appeared a huge dark blue whale that is 100 meters long. This is her longevity soul deep-sea demon essence. Sister Ziyu, I miss you so much. You don't usually let me out to play. It's so boring in the eyebrow space. Although the deep-sea demon is very big, but he used a coquettish Maimon tone to talk to Ziyu. Ziyu jumped up and landed on the head of the deep-sea demon. I'll take you out to play early today. Just in time for you to meet a new friend, the little evil dragon. Who is the little evil dragon? The deep-sea demon asked curiously. How to answer? Okay, no more to say. The void is torn apart, let's get there quickly. Immediately, the magic spirit turned to the deep zone and entered the clouds. The space was torn apart instantly. The huge deep area of the demon enters the crack. Above the sky on the other side, a giant black dragon more than 50 meters loudly roared in the sky, flying towards the distance very fast. Behind him is a golden giant chasing the shortcomings. The golden giant suddenly waved his hands. The sound of the bow and a huge shock wave. Guo Juliani blasted towards the black dragon. The path of half-death cannot be withdrawn even in 2 days. The black dragon fell from the sky. It hit the ground and caused heavy dust in the sky. Chung Lai settled on the black dragon, lying breathlessly in the deep pit. I look unwilling. Even though he had the immortal zone due to the huge gap in realm, the soldiers and spirits struck by this blow still died. Du Ao was above the giant's head. His hands were folded in front of his chest, and his eyes were dark. Dragon, I told you that you can't escape, although your beast soul is the most powerful dragon beast soul. But given the difference in realm, you are just giving play resistance, right? Black Dragon Eye sucked in his eyes and roared towards Dali Jingung Yuan to vent the anger in his heart. He is not willing to give in. He is still too weak to lead his master away from danger. There is blood coming from the corner of my mouth. My eyes are red. Staring at that voice seemed to be waiting for death. Little Black Dragon, do you want to live? Just at this time, a voice came back to my mind like a god. Is that me? Little Black Dragon? I tried to ask. Yes, it's you. Do you want to live? Do you want revenge? When I heard these words, I clenched my fists and dug my fingertips into my flesh. Think I want revenge. I want to kill Du Ao and Liu Ruyan. I roar hysterically to vent my resentment. Okay, as you wish. The voice in my mind sounded again. Dragon, go to hell. Just when Du Ao was about to take action. The originally clear sky outside and inside. Suddenly, the dark clouds reversed the steps of lightning and thunder. What is going on? Du Ao stares at the sky with mental strength. It seems as if some terrifying existence is about to come. Then the sky was torn apart with a tearing sound. A huge figure emerged from the dark clouds. Enough white rice, with the appearance of this figure. Thunder and lightning. Dark blue magic spirit boils towards the sky. And on the demon spirit's head stood a beautiful woman. In my shocked eyes, the woman who looked like an empress that night, laughed at me. Du Ao stared at the figure with a trembling tone. Your master would be dead without us. How dare you crush your mouth on me? After hearing these words, Black Dragon chose to shut up. The other party is here to save her master and her. The little black dragon will protect me in front of me when I am unconscious. The proud dragon hand slowly lowered, as if surrendering. Mr. Du Ao, I want this divine dragon. Ziyu said coldly. There is no chance for the other party to bargain. Ziyu. Divine Dragon is the leader of our Beast Soul Federation. Besides, I will kill this divine dragon today. Du Ao said with some difficulty. This divine dragon must be killed today. Otherwise, there will be endless hidden dangers. Once the other party has grown up completely, their first military region will never have peace. Ziyu is unhappy. Are you rejecting me? The dark blue word, mu, locked onto Du Ao. Du Ao Dunshu felt the pressure doubled, locked by a strong man who reached the peak of warcraft. Wan is like carrying a big mountain on his shoulders. At this moment, Ziyu's body size instantly became smaller. If you want to be a little black dragon, the thickness of your finger. Seeing this scene, Ziyu said somewhat differently, Little black dragon, you can actually grow bigger and smaller. Why can't my little devil work? The little black dragon looked at Ziyu with some fear. Lying on my chest with his head covered. It's interesting. Ziyu hugged me inside. He's still a handsome boy, but he's a little too embarrassed. But it doesn't matter. Wang Zhan vomited a snake temper and moved towards Ziyu to enter. Your colleague, is this dragon here? Are you seriously injured? Feeling my breath, Wang Jian clearly realized that he was seriously injured. Ziyu nodded and smiled bitterly. Yes, this little guy fled thousands of miles away. It's really not easy, but it doesn't matter. Let that little girl horse treat her. The injury will be restored soon. Said Ziyu walked into the steel gate. When Ziyu walked into the training area, the originally bustling training area was instantly transformed. Wang Jian glanced at everyone who was motionless and said loudly, "What are you looking at to continue training, you Ziyu sister, Ziyu sister? I miss you so much." A cute girl in white clothes ran over and tired her eyes out. Ziyu looked at the visitor and said with a smile, "Xiao Wuma, long time no see. The girl in front of me has short white hair. But he is very short and looks like anyone can bully him." "Sister Ziyu, who is this handsome boy in your arms?" Horse said curiously. She was fascinated by the other person's appearance. How come there are such handsome people in the world? Ziyu glanced at me in her arms and laughed. "Xiao Horse, this is not a handsome boy. This is the little evil dragon, and he is Dragon." Awuma was shocked. "Chen? Dragon, how could he be Dragon? I remember Dragon as a handsome guy with blonde hair and sunshine. This guy seems to have some reputation. He also has black hair. Although he has never seen Dragon, he has heard of him. He has blonde hair, golden film sunshine, and handsome face like Guan Yu. I won't go into detail now and you'll explain later. By the way, where did they go?" Ziyu asked that they were the other ones. "Sister Ziyu, we are here." A voice came from behind Ziyu. Huan turned her head. Clown cow, small bearded dog, small pig, small four-tongue, small stomach sheep. "Long time no see," Ziyu greeted me warmly. Among them, the clown cow is a girl with a pretty figure. His skin showed a healthy vein color, and he was wearing a hot red shirt. Dog was a handsome man, wearing glasses, and had short black hair and was wearing a black shirt. Zhangzhu was a little fat man, holding rat slices in his hand. Mingli Zhuoyan gives people a feeling of being honest, while Situng is a figure salesman wearing a blue shirt. He has long blue hair tied into a ponytail. Wei Yang is as tall as a jade, with a plump and bumpy figure. He gives people the feeling of a fox beauty and wears a pink shirt. At this time, everyone's eyes were focused on me, waiting for me to wake up. They all heard about me. Jackie Chan has always been the existence they looked up to. I didn't expect to be attacked by one of my own people. It was really shocking. "Sister Ziyu, she's awake." "She's awake," Horse said excitedly. When I opened my eyes, Menglong felt a splitting headache, as if he had had a nightmare. Looking around, his eyes finally fell on Ziyu. "You are the big sister who saved me." Ziyu joked, "Yes." "Introduce yourself." "My name is Ziyu. Same as the Human Republic Federation, and this is the 1st Defense Military District of the Human Republic Federation. They are the owners of the valid souls of our Republican Federation." My eyes fell on Horse, who was squatting on the ground cooling himself off. Looking at the cute look of the other party, he unconsciously stretched out his hand to pinch Horse Dai's soft face. Immediately, Horse's face turned red, and he started eating, hiding, and pouting. First meeting. "Chen Lu, are you being a little too presumptuous?" I pulled back my hand in embarrassment and said apologetically, "Sorry, I couldn't hold it back." I raised my film and looked at Jizyudan's thieves. "Thank you. If it weren't for you, I'd probably die in Du Hao's hands. I didn't expect this group of people to be so motivated by silver traces. The sacred dragon soul was entrusted to me. Everyone understood this person as soon as he appeared. Sister Ziyu really didn't lie to them. The Soul Suffering Federation is really crazy. He actually let Zishu kill Dragon and seize the opponent's sacred dragon soul," Ziyu said with a voice. "Isn't your purpose to get us the Commonwealth to come to the rescue?" "The goal has been achieved, now it's time to talk about the price," I said without any hesitation. "As long as I can do it, I agree. There is no way to repay the life-saving grace. My request is also very simple. Join us and become the representative of our republic. Finally, our republic. Don't worry, we are still very popular. There is no distance between us in the Commonwealth and the Federation of Souls. We will not restrict your freedom, I said with a wry smile in Wenyan. The Soul Show Federation wants to kill me and I have nowhere to go. So what if we join the Commonwealth? Then Ziyu introduced the 5 of them one by one. Finally he clapped his hands and looked at me and said, "Okay, that's all. Isn't it time for Dragon to be introduced?" I nodded. "My code name is Dragon. Of course, you can also call me Dragon now. The main ability now is the early stage of swallowing the Sky Soul Mirror. And this is my soul. I don't know why it became so small." The little black dragon curled up and lay in my palm. Everyone nodded. They had known for a long time that the black dragon's feet on top of my head were a characteristic of soul-receiving masters who had reached the level of the soul-receiving mirror. Li Huanzong, right? I will call you by your codename from now on. So handsome boy, should we call you Dragon or Evil Dragon? Now, Wujia smiled and said, "To be honest, in his mind, my appearance is very much in line with his standards." Looking at the cute horse, I said lightly, "Let's call me Dragon. Dragon sounds more pleasant to my ears." "Dragon, tell us what happened to make you like this," Ox said very excitedly. They all heard the legend. Everyone thought it was spread by humans 100 years ago, but didn't expect it to actually happen. Dragon turned into an evil dragon. After hearing this, everyone pricked up their ears and waited for my answer. I took a look at the curious crowd and calmly took a breath and said, "This started 3 years ago. I didn't expect that Zishu would actually do this. In the end, I put all my hope on that legend. Obviously, I won the bet and am even stronger. I clenched my fists and felt the power in my body. Although the sacred dragon soul has been lost, swallowing heaven and earth is obviously more powerful. Now that the introduction is over, what's next? You should get along well with each other," Ziyu said with a smile. "They all call me Sister Ziyu. Dragon, you also call me this to make me look tight." I think Ziyu's face is a little reddish. "Sister Ziyu, thank you for saving me. If it weren't for you arriving in time, I'm afraid I would have died on the spot." Ziyu waved his hands and said nonchalantly, "It goes without saying if you're grateful. I want to see your actions. As long as you don't betray our republic, that's fine." Having said so much, I will tell you one more important thing. This matter is related to your future. Ziyu turned serious. This love break in the foreign battlefield ended perfectly. In the next 1 year, I want the 7 of you to reach the soul-receiving state. Everyone nodded. Although I don't know why I am anxious to let them improve their strength. But it's always good to be stronger. Why is Sister Ziyu so anxious for us to improve our strength? Is something going to happen? The more famous and prestigious fiction realized that it was wrong to ask questions. Ziyu nodded and said, 1 year later, the battlefield outside the territory will rise again. This time there will be a 5th-term clan or even a 5th-term peak, and there will even be a dragon clan. The races living in the center of the earth are all called one clan by the people of Blue Star, and they also have another name for the 10,000 clans. Wanzu is coming. That's not right, Sister Ziyu. Isn't the extraterritorial battlefield only opened every 3 years? Why does it need to be opened again after 1 year? And didn't dragons appear in the last foreign battlefield? I still have some plans to give birth to Long Ming, Horse said, with some fear. Everyone's eyes are on me. I'm afraid only Horse thinks that the dragon's roar was caused by his clan. I smiled and said bitterly, Wuma actually said that the dragon's roar in that life on the battlefield outside the territory was made by my longevity soul. Wenyan Wuma's eyes fell on the little black dragon on the palm of my hand with a yellow and foggy look. I went on to say, Sister Ziyu, is the greatly reduced opening time of the extraterritorial battlefield accompanied by something we don't know about? Ziyu looked at me and said with a heartfelt smile, You all know what happened 18 years ago. Everyone nodded in Wenyan. What happened 18 years ago when they were learning animals at the academy? Like a generation of 12 Zodiac soul owners all lost on the battlefield outside prison. Otherwise, it is impossible for them to awaken and take effect. But what you know is, 18 years ago, our two federations combined had a total of 14 divine beasts and more than 200 monsters. I am a member of the World of Warcraft. Ziyu felt scared after thinking about what happened 18 years ago. Fear of being beaten to pieces on the battlefield outside the prison. Today's battlefield outside prison does not include 1/10 of the original elephants. How come there are so many strong people in our Blue Star Ox? Can't believe it. Was Blue Star so powerful 18 years ago? How come they have never learned about this matter and don't know about it? It seems that 18 years ago, the 12 Zodiac were covered with clouds and mist. I was thoughtful when I heard about the history that was jointly hidden by the two federations. I was very confused when I traveled to this world. Why is it that after hundreds of years of world change, there is no one in the divine beast realm among humans? Is the realm of divine beasts just a concept, and no one has achieved it? So Sister Ziyu and all the powerful ancestors of the human race were lost on the battlefield outside the prison 18 years ago, I said gloomily. Discovered that it seemed to touch the secret buried by the whole world. Ziyu nodded solemnly, and the little evil dragon guessed correctly. This is the hidden history. 18 years ago, our two major federations and one star launched the most intense battle since their superiority. In the battlefield outside the prison, the entire space will be destroyed in one day. After Ziyu finished speaking, everyone stared in disbelief. Looking at the shocked little guys, Ziyu said with a smile, "We humans have many strong people, but so do our clan. This battle is inevitable." Dozens of members of the clan were killed on the battlefield outside the prison. We have just ushered in 18 years of peace. And I am an insignificant World of Warcraft spirit warrior who survived the battlefield back then. Ziyu ignored the horrified looks of the little guys and continued, "And 18 years have passed. I am afraid that in the near future there will be a new round of war between humans and aliens on the battlefield outside the prison, and your 12 Zodiac Beast souls have the successors of the 12 most powerful beast souls. Your task is very heavy." I gasped and my breathing became rapid. Originally, I didn't have any pressure. But now that I heard the secrets hidden by the two federations, I feel that my bullets are very heavy. The rest of the people also feel uncomfortable. Before I knew this, I'm afraid they didn't have any pressure under the protection of the strong. But now they shoulder the hope of the entire human race. Otherwise, the 12 Zodiac Beast souls would be wasted on them. Next is the novel part. Those who want to watch the follow-up in advance can download QQ to read on Apple and search for The Revenge of the Dragon. The first one found is, "See you at the end of the festival. I will practice hard to improve my strength. I will never take off my hind legs again," Wuja said with a serious face. Stepson Yu looks uncensored. Sighed happily. "Don't blame me for urging you. Foreigners are working hard. You also cannot relax. In the next year, we must devote ourselves to spiritual cultivation. Only by reaching the beast soul realm and being on the battlefield outside prison can one avoid danger to one's life." The agreement reached between the alien race and their human race. Wouldn't a clan higher than the 5th level be sent to train these new generations? And if the owners of the 12 Zodiac Beast souls die on the battlefield and wait for the next one to fully grow up, it will be another 18 years. Will the human race have another 18 years? Hai asked while eating potato chips. Zug. See you. Our situation is so difficult now. Then why does Zegan still want to kill Silkworm to seize skills? Isn't this self-destruction of the Great Wall? Doesn't the Beast Soul Federation understand? What the High Tribe didn't understand the most when they heard these secrets was that since they didn't know the current situation of the human race, didn't the top brass of the Beast Soul Federation know about it? Why did they still condone the subordinates to kill the Silkworm Dragon and seize the skills? Everyone, including Li Huanzong, was waiting for Jizyu's answer. Zyu thought for a moment and said, "I'm afraid the Beast Soul Federation is going to cultivate a monster right. A sub-subordinate who has assembled the strongest skills of all the effective beast souls. The open area for the next foreign battlefield experience will be very large. If you encounter a subordinate, you must be careful. I'm afraid that the fellow leaders of the Beast Soul Federation didn't know what Duao had done. Li Huanzong nodded, and he thought so too. If the fellow leaders of the Beast Soul Federation knew and acquiesced to what Z was doing, would it really be possible to stop many 9th-level clans in the future with just one powerful Z? It's obviously impossible. You are human beings. The wish to take effect. The cultivation speed of beast soul owners is almost several times or even more than that of ordinary beast soul owners. I think you should know it right. Since Ziyu asked, it is true that I have already reached the beast soul path, and some of the beast soul masters who asked the same question as me have even reached the beast soul path. He has not yet reached the beast soul path, staying in the soul open path, or even opening the spirit path. The rest of the people also nodded and reviewed that their cultivation speed is much faster than ordinary people. Li Huanzong also thinks so. The Zodiac Beast soul is the most powerful of the 12 kinds of beast souls. The cultivation speed is several times that of ordinary beast souls, even more. And the training speed of his dragon soul granting is faster than the other 12 zodiac animals. Soul granting also has grades. The first thing to bear the brunt is the 12 zodiac. The next step is ordinary soul granting. Under ordinary soul granting, there are also only 2 skills to stimulate the soul. The cultivation speeds of the 3 are different, and his dragon soul granting is the most powerful among the 12 zodiac animals, second only to dragon soul granting, rat soul granting. He was also left behind at first. Harm with the devouring growth skill. Only with the speed of cultivation can we compete with his dragon soul enlightenment. And after degenerating into an evil dragon, his cultivation speed will only be faster. Ziyu smiled bitterly. The gap between soul granting is irreparable. 18 years ago. At that time when I was 30 years old, I practiced so much in order to abolish the human race. And 18 years have passed. I have just reached the peak of the World of Warcraft mirror, and in the world over and over again for 100 years. The 12 zodiac animals can impart souls to even the slowest ones in cultivation. It was also at the age of 30 that he reached the level of the divine beast mirror and became a strong person. Speaking of which, I miss you 7 little guys. You are known as the hope of mankind. 100 years ago, it was negative for the 3-year dream of the blue star. Everyone nodded. After what they said today, they fully understood the tasks they shouldered and their missions. They are the key to fighting against the clan. Li Huanzong looked at Ziyu and couldn't tell that the other person was actually a 38-year-old ant. The appearance is no different from that of a 20-year-old girl. Right. One more thing. Next time the 7 of you enter the battlefield outside the prison, you must choose a captain. Lead you. It's up to you, Ziyu said with a smile. Everyone look at me. I took a look at you, Horse said first. I'm only in the middle of hearing about it. But I will definitely work hard to practice in the future. Try not to put too much distance between you. I am an auxiliary type of soul granter. This position of captain has nothing to do with me. I quit. Wuma quits. What about you? Ziyu looked at the 6 people who were goat dogs, snake, ox, and dragon. Dog pushed the black eye mine, said with a smile. In the past there was no captain and everyone fought alone. Now if we really want to choose the captain, I will fight for it, the snake said. I support Dog becoming the captain. I stand with Dog. I give up the fight for the captaincy. Then I support Sister Ox, Horse added. She didn't expect that this could happen. The ox takes the horseless horse into its arms, caressed and squeezed the other person's soft face and said with a smile, No, Horse. Sister, I didn't love you in vain, although I am only in the middle of hearing about it. But I still have to fight for the position of captain. Goat's beautiful face said with a smile, not interested in the captain position, but I support Dragon. Everyone was shocked. Unexpectedly among them, the person who was second only to the murderer will actually support the newcomer dragon. Wei Yang looked at Dragon and said with a smile. His eyebrows turned pink and his eyes full of pink. Dragon, how are you? Are you touched by me? Li Huanzong ignored Goat. Although this guy has a beautiful appearance, but he felt that the other party was always in contact with him. I don't know why he doesn't have a good impression of Goat. I can't say I don't have a good impression of it. I can only say that there are some flaws. Although the other party is very beautiful, but the first impression I gave him was really bad. Everyone's eyes are focused on Li Huanzong. Li Huanzong plays with the little black dragon in his hand, said with a smile. I don't have the habit of taking orders from others, since I want to form a team. Then I still have to fight for the position of captain, even during the trial in the Soul Show Federation's extraterritorial battlefield. He just teamed up with his girlfriend Ziyu, did not form a team with anyone else. Suddenly, everyone felt huge pressure. Haizu said with a smile while eating rat slices. Dragon said so. Then I mean the same thing. I also want to fight for the position of captain. I will only listen to him if he is stronger than me. Okay, you Haizu. You're always having sex all day long. Actually wants to compete for the position of captain. Ox said, there is nothing we can do after all he is the captain. Of course it belongs to those who are capable. It will kill those who look back and laugh. Chapter 13. Competing for the position of captain, the one with the best will take the position. Looking at this scene, Ziyu said calmly, you used to be very harmonious. Now it's time to run for captain. Your healing cliff is finally exposed. They are all souls of the 12 Zodiac, the 12 most powerful souls. Although there are strengths and weaknesses, but it doesn't mean that those who are weak will feel weaker than others. As for following other people's orders, in the hearts of these people who are friends with each other, it is simply impossible, and Ziyu thinks he has the best chance of becoming the captain. There are only 3 people, namely Dragon Pig and Goat. The 3 are the most powerful. The 2 of them have reached the early stage of soul imprisonment. One person has achieved soul imprisonment and is the most capable of running for captain. But what she didn't expect was that the snake supported dog. No horse supports the ox, and Goat supports his beloved dragon. I don't know why, and punished himself for running for captain. He was eating potato chips and laughing. Captain's position. Sister Ziyu, I don't want my captain to be weaker than me. So my opponent is only dragon. The rest of the people will not be regarded as opponents by me. I will punish you. You are too crazy. Even if you are soul imprisoned, you can't be so crazy. There are 2 of us, and you only have 1. Do you really think you are our opponent? The ox stuck his waist and said with some aura. She felt embarrassed and looked down upon her, although she is only in the late stage of soul imprisonment. But don't forget that the one who supports her is Horse, a healing soul. He smiled and said nothing. Ziyu said at this time, since neither of you are willing to listen to the other side pick the captain, why don't you guys compete? How about the winner becoming the captain of the effective team? This is the only solution. Otherwise, even if she selects the most powerful dragon as the captain, even if the others obey on the surface, they may not obey this beloved captain in their hearts. Shiju put away the rat film and applauded. Sister Ziyu is right, let's do it this way. The winner, the strong person, becomes the captain of the team. This can also convince the public. The rest of the people also nodded one after another. This is all we can do. Li Huanzong smiled and said, it's too boring to do this right. How about I fight alone? How about the 6 of you? Yeah. What? Dragon, what are you talking about? Everyone looked at Dragon in confusion. What did they just hear? Dragon wants to beat 6 of them by himself. Who gives him the courage? Even though the opponent's soul is the most powerful dragon, he shouldn't be so arrogant. A look of anger appeared on Goat's stunningly beautiful face. He said in confusion, "Dragon, what do you mean? One person beats 6 of us. Do you have the strength I advise you to take back what you just said? I support you. There is no suspense about your position as captain." Li Huanzong shook his head. It is indeed what Goat said. With the support of someone at the top of the world, there is absolutely no need to become the captain. But in order to prevent others from disobeying him in the future, he still has to establish his authority. 1 against 6, it's me again. After Dragon fell into the abyss and turned into an evil dragon. His skills have been changed. The power of the immortal zone. People in the same realm cannot cause substantial harm to him. It would be impossible to cause effective harm to his people. What's more, he only killed 1 person and reached the soul-receiving state. Besides, his Tiantianshi skills are not just about pushing. Everything can be swallowed. Ha 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 ha. Ziyu laughed and said, little evil dragon, why do you have the confidence to beat 6 with 1 who gave you the courage, Jesus? But you are sure you want to do this. Don't regret it, handsome boy, although you are very strong. Dragon is the most powerful soul keeper, but don't forget that we are also the owners of the 12-tone effect souls. We are not much weaker than you. 1 against 6, are you serious, Wuma Shunwen? Li Huanzong nodded seriously, his gaze still serious. Smiled, of course he is serious.